The mystical journey protecting the innocent in Tanzania. We're diving into an absolutely incredible story today. It's the profound journey of a non-religious man from the UK who basically walked straight into unimaginable darkness to save vulnerable children. His name is John St. Julien, and his story goes way beyond a typical charity mission. It's this complex tapestry of intense spiritual awakenings, brutal physical realities, and the incredible power of unconditional love. We're going to unpack exactly how one person transformed their entire existence to become a shield for the most defenseless among us.
So, what actually drives a person to leave everything behind and battle unimaginable darkness to save the innocent? I mean, how did John St. Julien follow these deep, almost unbelievable synchronicities to rescue over 300 children? What actually compels someone to completely uproot a comfortable life, face off against deeply entrenched corruption, and build massive safe havens in a totally foreign land? It's a fascinating question, and the answer lies in a series of highly unusual events that we are going to break down right now.
Part 1. A mystical call to Africa, from the UK to Tanzania.
The synchronicities here are just wild. Picture this. John fasted for 11 days, starting on November 11, 2011. He was drawn to fasting simply because he knew historical spiritual figures had done it. After applying to volunteer for an organization he found online, an unexpected email arrives at exactly 11:11 a.m. And get this, it wasn't even for the organization he thought he was applying to. It was for a completely different one in Tanzania, which, crazy enough, is exactly where his massive rescue village stands today.
His progression was incredibly rapid. We're talking going from a secular, worldly life in the UK through a 40-day water fast where he heard what he perceived as God's voice to suddenly running a crumbling NGO using his own life savings. He arrived in Africa feeling totally unqualified, only to find the NGO he joined was corrupt and completely falling apart. Using whatever meager savings he had left, he just took it over. Over the next 12 years, that wild leap of faith would snowball into an absolutely massive life-saving operation.
Part 2. The crisis of the innocent, survival versus empathy.
Now we have to look at the reality on the ground. Extreme poverty, desperation, and superstitious beliefs lead to some horrific isolation. We're talking about children being tied up or hidden in total darkness. Because when communities are struggling every single day just to survive, without any government welfare, empathy often takes a back seat to raw survival. Combine that immense poverty with ancient, pervasive superstitions that view disabled children as a curse or a burden, and you get a tragically volatile environment for a vulnerable child.
And to put that into perspective, the scale of this issue is vast. UNICEF estimates that a staggering 10% of African children are disabled. 10%. That makes education and rescue operations utterly vital. When John began asking, hey, where are the disabled children? The chilling reality was that many were actively being hidden away by their own families out of shame, fear, or honestly, just a pure inability to cope. It's incredibly heavy stuff, but rescue operations revealed children surviving in darkness, tied to poles and rocks, just desperate for intervention. John recounts finding a little boy locked in a room, tied to a pole, left with just a plastic dish of water like an animal. Another child with mental impairments was found tied to a rock, his legs completely scarred and bleeding. These aren't isolated incidents, sadly. They are the harsh realities that John's team intercepts daily, opening the door to those dark rooms and offering immediate, condition-free love.
Part 3. Battling the darkness, spiritual and physical warfare.
There's this profound warning from a Maasai warrior that John works with. You can't just walk around taking away Satan's food and not expect him to retaliate. It perfectly captures the perceived spiritual warfare and the severe physical danger involved in intercepting child traffickers. After rescuing a severely abused boy, John nearly stepped on a deadly puff-adder snake. His guard, the stoic Maasai warrior, delivered that exact quote. It perfectly frames the reality of their work. Protecting innocence actively agitates those who wish to exploit it.
So John's operation faces a really multifaceted battle, ranging from hired hitmen and political corruption to what he describes as dark spiritual forces seeking to destroy pure innocence for economic gain. John reports that certain occult practices driven by witch doctors actually target children with special needs or albinism for sacrifices, believing their innocence yields economic favors. It's horrifying. The physical threat is so high that in 2024, a corrupt local politician and religious figures allegedly plotted to hire a hitman to drain John's NGO of resources. This is exactly why his villages are now guarded 24/7 by fearless Maasai warriors and armed response units.
Part 4. The Power of Innocence, Embracing Surrender.
This brings us to a counterintuitive concept from mystical texts called divine laziness. It's the total surrender to God's will without ego interference, allowing divine energy to animate human action. I know it sounds a bit strange, right? Laziness as a virtue, but the whole idea is about non-doership. John explains that he isn't academically qualified to run massive medical and rehabilitation facilities. Instead, he simply stays present and surrenders his own plans, allowing a higher intelligence to orchestrate the immense logistics right through him. Think about it like this. The human ego wants to control, analyzing, planning, getting tangled up in fear. But John's mystic approach acts simply as a conduit to protect the most vulnerable by staying present as an unresisting vessel for love. When we overanalyze, we get tangled in limitations. By staying in a state of total surrender, John bypasses the paralyzing fear of responsibility. When 2 rescue children suddenly became 10, and then 20, and then 300, it was this surrender that allowed the infrastructure to just naturally manifest around the growing need. John emphasizes that pure innocence is an ultimate, sacred frequency that actually deflects spiritual interference when kept pure by truth. Whether it's residing in a disabled child or maintained within oneself through truth, it's an actual energetic state of wonder that we absolutely have to fiercely protect. In a mystical sense, John views innocence as a tight, woven frequency. He notes that if you maintain absolute truth and childlike wonder in your own life, you become almost impenetrable to the distortions of the world. And it's this exact frequency that the rescue missions are designed to safeguard.
Part 5. Building Eden, Manifesting Safety and Love.
It is absolutely amazing to see how simply staying present led to the employment of nearly 300 staff and the creation of immense safety nets. What started with one man taking in a single orphaned boy has totally exploded. Now they have special needs villages providing 24/7 care for disabled youth, a boys' home for rehabilitating street children, a rehab center for full-time drug recovery, and even an animal rescue for local dogs. Nearly 300 local Tanzanians, everyone from doctors and physiotherapists to accountants, are now employed to keep these sanctuaries running around the clock.
And their newest expansion, called Eden Village, is just incredible. It was miraculously funded through global synchronicities and unusual partners, providing an absolute haven of light for rescued children about 9 hours away from their original site. Through a wild chain of events involving a map drawn in Europe, an impromptu donation from a wellness center founder, and even fundraising support from boxing legend Mike Tyson, Eden Village became a reality. It features these incredible donut-shaped buildings, each designed to house 100 children in total safety.
But what really sets them apart is total transparency. Online systems track every single donor dollar, creating direct partnerships with the rescued children. Because truth is absolutely non-negotiable for John, they've built industry-disrupting tracking systems. Donors aren't just sending money into a void. They can trace exactly where their dollars go, forming direct, meaningful partnerships with the children and the immense operations keeping them safe.
So I'll leave you with this final, provocative question to think about. How are you protecting the innocent light in your own corner of the world? We might not all be called to move to Tanzania and face down hitmen, but John's journey challenges every single one of us. Are we prioritizing empathy over our own survival mindset? How are we actively shielding the innocent right where we stand? Take that thought with you today and keep protecting the light.